Hello, and welcome back to this latest episode, the number of which I have forgotten, of the Miramichi Historical Linkages podcast. We're back again. I am Shawn McCarthy, joined today once again by Tasha Smith, Sarah Ward, and Alison Paradis. Today, we'll be speaking a little bit about the recent trip that Tasha and I took to the portage trails on the McKay Brook and the Gordon Meadow Brook that link those two bodies of water together that we took alongside of Tim Humes. And we've got some photos of that event from Tasha, which I will send to our videographer Andrew, which hopefully maybe can be kind of put in to this sequence in this episode. So I've kind of just sprung that on Andrew, and he's not here to be able to defend himself. So there we are. So that's something that I'm promising that hopefully he can deliver. But yeah. So welcome everybody. How's everybody been since last we all spoke?
Good. I'm excited to hear about the portage trails because I didn't go because of who I am as a person, but also because of life being busy on our end. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have been up to. How's everybody else? Enough about me.
That sounds interesting. I like to hear about it. I had Tim come to my class when I was teaching, and he talked about the portage trail, and it seemed to be very interesting. But I guess I'm at the age where I have to get stories from other people that went through the trail. Because right now I'm like, I like to go, but some things I can't climb no more.
Well, it was a full day for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Yes,
Tasha,
it was. Oh, no. I just wanted to answer your question. Like, I'm well, too. Thank you guys for asking. Oh, shoot. I was going to say something about those trails, and it slipped my mind already. Oh, you're talking about the terrain and stuff. Yeah, because it's like, it's a portage, right? So you're like going through it, and you can step over roots and see all the different tracks. But they were really creative, and they put these like boardwalks in there, too, which are beneficial for multiple reasons, especially if weather changes throughout the year. But Shawn, do you remember if Tim said that one of the trails was accessible for everybody? I just can't remember which trail he said it was out of the circuit.
I'm not entirely sure. I think the trail that we were on, is certainly open to anybody that wants to utilize it. And I think he certainly made mention of the fact that if people are interested in just using it as kind of a hiking trail, that's something that, they're very open to. It's 6 kilometers. So that's a pretty good hike. And, you get to see a fair bit of country, not only walking the trail, but also getting there. As Tasha, we got ourselves a bit of a guided experience with Tim kind of stopping and showing us some points, even just along the road as we were driving. So that was very beneficial. But with regard to this story, maybe as I find with so many stories, it's always best to begin at the beginning. I knew Tim from my time with Friends of Beaubears. He was somebody that worked very closely with us and helped us with the restoration of the trails on Beaubears Island. But for 8 years, I had heard a lot about the restored trail network, the portage trails, the ancient portage trails that he was working on with Trails New Brunswick and Canoe Kayak New Brunswick and a number of other partners. But I had never actually seen them. So this was a great opportunity for me to kind of get out and have a look. I mean, I'd seen the very detailed slideshow that Tim had done in the past, one that's kind of an ever-growing presentation. And if you have a chance to see it, I would certainly recommend it. It's very informative. But Tasha, I know you in your research kind of got to know Tim a little bit through references with Bobby Doyle, talking to him about the portage trails as well. So maybe can you pick up the story from there?
Absolutely. Yes, you're right. Coincidentally, literally my first interview after getting this position with you guys, I had with Nelson Cloud. And he is the one that brought up these ancient First Nation portage trails to my attention because I didn't hear anything about them. And that was one of his reasons of bringing it up, is that there's not enough awareness for it. And because it takes a lot of work to keep maintaining these trails. So he was saying more awareness would bring hopefully more volunteers and like just sharing public awareness of it. When he mentioned this, he told me I should get in contact with Robert Doyle, and I did reach out to him, and he was very kind and invited me out to his home, and I went and spent a few hours with him discussing his work. A very passionate man, dedicated scholar. I'm amazed at how much they have done over the years. I also spoke with Kevin Siliker, who was another person who was working on this project. When I interviewed Robert, Kevin, and Tim, all had wonderful things to say about each other, but they were all the three members working on this project that I believe is being funded by Canoe Kayak New Brunswick at this time. So when I got to know them more, because Robert Doyle has a book he would like to publish at some point about all the information that he's acquired or found over the years of working on these portage trails. And as you said, Tim Humes is very informed. His PowerPoint has so much information and it's ongoing. I believe he said he's taken some of the pictures of the hike we did that day and adding it into his PowerPoint as well. So maybe, Sarah, if you keep inviting Tim, you'll see me and Shawn in these pictures as well. So then I haven't been in touch with Robert Doyle as much. Last time I spoke to him was this summer, but I also hear he's been a very busy man. But we were able to see the wood piles he brought in when we were going through the hike, so that he's continuing like just his work of maintaining it, which is amazing. And then we started to get this hike going since like the beginning of the year too, didn't we, Shawn? I feel like we started talking about this in spring, and Tim was very kind to give us some information or some tips about if we don't want to be eaten alive or carried away by mosquitoes, we should go when it's a little bit cooler, which I very much appreciated. And then when we tried to go, was it Hurricane Fiona showed up? So then we had to postpone it again.
But I remember the day before, you guys were still like, "Yeah, we're going. I'm going. I don't know." And I was like, I just would say you should not do this, and you guys were like, "We'll probably do it."
It's so funny. I told because my husband came as well, so I was telling him, I was like, what I'm going to do, because when we thought we were still going, I was like, I'm going to get underneath a little fallen tree and have you take a picture of me, and I'll send it to Allie.
I would have immediately started crying.
I would have put "just kidding" right after it.
It's too late. I would have been crying so hard I couldn't read.
The damage has been done.
The damage has been done.
Okay. Well, we didn't go, thankfully. No tree crushing Tasha, thank goodness. But
thank goodness.
Then we were able to go in November.
Tim went?
Yeah.
Yeah, that day, the day of the hurricane, he did go. Yeah.
No, Tim.
Yeah.
I gotta call
just
him.
to check it, just to see if it was still, if everything was all right.
Did you see evidence of Fiona there?
Like the trails were there the next day. He could have gone the next day to check on it.
Yeah, they had to do a lot of cleanup, didn't they, Shawn, after or something?
I think he said about 15 trees that were down. You know what I mean? That's it that he had to clear out. So yeah, I think that's what he had said. But I didn't see that. I mean, again, obviously Tim does. Well, there you go. That's right.
Underneath 15 trees.
But I think. Yeah, that's it. But I think
Tim was the giant that day. Okay, he went there to try to hold up the trees.
Oh my gosh,
that's true. More about giants in a later episode.
Yeah, exactly. There will be more.
So where does this trail start from, or where does it end?
So the trail begins kind of the other side of Weirton, and I guess is not far from again, Tasha, please correct me if I'm wrong. We're not far from the Timoganops River because Tim pointed that out to us on our way. And there's kind of a woods road that runs right through the middle of the trail, which kind of so to one side, you can go out toward McKay Brook, and on the other side, you can head toward Gordon Meadowbrook. Tasha providing the directions. I don't remember which side was which, so I'm glad Tasha does.
Tasha, have you ever worked on airplanes? You're so good at this.
Thank you.
My backup job. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, he's so passionate, and thank goodness that you have someone like that taking on these kind of projects, because they would not have gotten as far as they have today without the dedication of Tim and Robert Doyle. That's for sure. And he was very, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go right ahead, Tasha.
I've been jabbering, you go ahead, your turn to jabber.
All I was going to say was just to kind of build onto your point, but the dedication is, he said that there were that many trees down, but I saw no evidence of that on that day. Like, I mean, it was thoroughly cleaned up. You would have never known, Yeah.
That's a good point, because remember how when we reached the end of the one side going to, was it McKay Brook? I can't remember which side it was, but, and then we went ahead because he was just kind of cleaning up again as we were walking, because he was still cleaning it up as we were going through. And then we went through the other way to go to the same side that we were at, I believe it was. And you could tell the difference of someone maintaining it and not maintaining it, because you had to like push through all like little pieces of twigs or branches and brush that are still there. Whereas he was sitting there with this great big thing, sawing stuff off to allow at least a pathway, but nothing that's too disrupting to the environment or ecosystem there. Like everything he wants to be is like, it still be a natural state. So that way you can actually enjoy nature when you're out there.
I am only responsible for the yard that my house is on, and there are still marks of Fiona. And yet, this guy's just like, don't worry about it. I'll clean it while it's happening.
And we lucked out that weekend. It was a beautiful weekend. I think it was like 22 degrees that day. So I was kind of hot. Nice. Like I had to like take off some layers. I was like, wee woo, hole, need a little clean. But I'm so glad. I'd rather be like that than freeze or soaking wet, right? But it was really, I got a lot of pictures. I think I took, did I send you guys like 80 something pictures? Because I think I had like 10 videos too. Because I think in total it said 93 things of images and videos. I was like, camera happy.
Oh no!
So you didn't get to kayak? You walked the trails?
We only walked this time, but Tim was very kind to offer that he would take us on a canoe through the passages. Where were those two places that meet again, Shawn?
So I think he would, Gordon Meadowbrook and McKay Brook. So I think he had offered to take us from the Northwest Miramichi into Gordon Meadowbrook, I think. I could be wrong, but that way, and then to kind of bring us, because I think the other side, it might be McKay Brook that we're going into, because I think Gordon Meadowbrook links into like the Nipisiguit and, up into the northern part of the province, I think. That's it. Tim is watching this episode and freaking out, probably thinking like, you weren't paying attention. You got all your portages backwards.
Does anybody listen to me?
It's just a lot of information.
As I understand it, the Portage Trail goes up towards Bathurst, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a circuit through the middle of the province, which allows you to basically, Yeah.
So anyway, an elder here, his name was Noel Sark. He talked about the trails that they used to walk to get to Bathurst and into Restigouche. And I was thinking, I said, I think that might be the Portage Trail. He didn't call it Portage Trail, but he said a lot of people used to go through that. And then I was showing Natasha about the tree, remember? And I'm thinking, I wonder if there'd be any evidence of those tree knots in those Portage Trail.
Keep my eyes open all the time now for those, seeing if I can find them anywhere. As I say, not to get off topic, even though it's still related. When you were talking, one of our first stops was that first bridge, the Tomoganops River, I believe, right? Or So that first bridge, I actually, after our hike that day, I went to go visit my cousin because I bought some teas off of him, and I was just explaining him of the hike and how it was such a good time and of the locations. And that's when he brought up that the Tomogonops River on both sides of the bridge is being a work in progress of getting it to become protected areas. Because if you go up the stream, the river a bit, there is stone there that's referred to as pipestone, and it's the only pipestone that's accessible all across Canada for like Indigenous communities, and that is used for smoking their pipe tobacco, making their pipes and whatnot for their ceremonial practices or whatever they may be using it for. And I thought the neat thing was that throughout my research, I came across a few different things, Innu place names in New Brunswick, an interactive map that had this information about the Tomogonops River and the Tomogonops Pipestone Quarry, which I believe is all in the same area. It connects to another website of Mi'kmaq folklore that I found, some stories that were recorded by Charles Leland, I believe it was, and Silas Rand. So the connection would be that they had the same name for this area, Miramichi, and translated to Mi'kmaq, it's, I believe it was something that looks like pipe or stone pipe or something like that. I'll definitely have to double check on that, but I thought it was quite interesting that to know that this river and these trails were not only clearly used by just the Indigenous communities in the eastern area, but whoever came here too to visit from across Canada to access this pipestone, if they were going to get it, they must have accessed these trails as well to get to these places. So I'm just wondering how many cultures, how many, different communities have accessed these trails to, access the same things, whether it's a stone for their pipes or if it was plants for their medicines or something of the sort. And from my understanding, all these trails will cross, because it's a big circuit, and they cross fresh spring waters after so many, such a distance. So that way they have access to clean water as they're traveling through.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to do like a deep dive to see which different cultures used it and for what. Like, did any of that cross over, or was there so much of each culture going in and just specifically looking for that one thing that they know is on that trail? Or I think that'd be something I'm gonna make a note about.
I think another question that Tim had, or a statement that he brought up, but he says he always will think about how long it took for people to, or how amazing it is as well, like both questions, for people in the past to create these trails and to find the right way, and like how many times do people get lost. But then I'm assuming they use their experience or their knowledge passed on from their ancestors. Like when Sarah brought up that she showed me that top notch for guiding communities through the woods. Oh shoot, I hate when I do that. I lost my train of thought. So many things going through my head. What was I talking about? Top notch, finding their way through the woods. Oh, he said
getting lost.
Getting lost, right. So like how long did it take for this trail to become like complete in a sense, like before they knew this is the way to go,
like a point A to point B trail?
Yes. There, got it out.
You did it.
And to your point earlier, I think now, Tash, you can correct. You might remember better than I do, but I think this is also the section of trail that was that had the species inventory done on it, so that there was, there is kind of a catalog of, the plants that are there. And of course, you and I, and Reg and Tim certainly saw a lot of evidence of the animals that were also using the trail as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we've seen, what was it? Oh, these little piles of they were pine cones all ripped apart. And at the time I didn't clue in, but there were squirrels that just ripped them apart to eat them. And there was huge piles. I was like, oh my God. A little area, some were on top of rocks, some were over there. And in the bushes, we even found, what was it? Gun shell casings. I'm not good with the terminology when it comes to that, but we found the casings. We've seen like a moose blind with a outdoor half put together porta potty. I don't know. I looked old. There was no walls, but there was a toilet. And then moose tracks coming out of like the portage like area that would connect you to the next trail. I even have a picture of my foot next to it. It was like almost the same size. Oh my goodness. So there's definitely a variety.
So they didn't tell you about how the squirrels eat it?
No.
Yeah. Did Tim tell you how the squirrels eat the nuts?
He did not.
He told my students there that he studied the squirrels too. He said, we assume that the squirrels eat the nuts using their teeth. He says, nope, they use their thumbnails to open the nuts.
Oh, that's so cute.
Which was interesting. Like now I'm watching squirrels every time I see them, how they eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said he must spend a lot of times in the woods just studying animals.
We've seen moose doo-doo. I don't know what the appropriate word to say on here too. I was amazed. I've never seen it before. It was huge. Like, wow. Took a picture. Definitely took a picture.
Add that to your slideshow.
Moose fertilizer.
Yeah. That's a good
There you
idea.
go.
And all the colors, it was really pretty to see too, because where it was kind of like fall, so a lot of the stuff was going to sleep, but all like the bright orange pine needles all over the ground and the green, and you could feel it's so different from walking in paved or well-traveled areas all the time because the ground's so solid. But when you're walking on these trails, you can like feel almost like a cushion underneath your feet as you're walking, and it's just almost kind of like surreal in your sense, like, oh, it's so fun, like walking on a cloud.
So how long were you guys out hiking for?
Well, I think the hike itself was probably wrapped up we probably started, maybe 11:30, around noon, maybe sometime around there. You know what I mean? We were probably wrapped up at about, 4:30, something like that. Nice. So, yeah. And then we were back here, we met at the office. So we were back here by about 6. Now that being said, that's probably because, you know what I mean, I drove us down a wrong road there for a little while. We took kind of a scenic route back, but that's it. But
you could have something to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Tasha and Reg were very patient with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's it. That I almost took us to I don't know where, but but we turned around and come back. So
what was it, like 68 kilometers to Miramichi or something, it was saying, or 86, 1 2.
Forging your own portage trail.
There you go. And it must be said that, that while Tasha and Reg and I came out of the woods, Tim remained.
Yes.
He was still working when we left. He went back in after he took us out, and had some more things that he wanted to do. So that's it. So
and then he also took a class like 4 days later. He took a class from a high school in as well to go through the trail, and
that's cool. Yeah. That would be a fun thing to try to get more schools involved in and actually learn, instead of just I remember when I was in high school and they would bring us to French Fork Cove to do hikes and stuff, but we never talked about our surroundings. It was us with our gym teacher. It was never if you stop here, you'll notice on the right that this blah, 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 blah. That would be a cool way to there actually are schools that are outdoor schools that your kids go and they learn everything outside. When I lived in Dorchester, the school just across the road from me, that's a big part of what they did. Their principal was huge on, you should learn from nature. You should learn from what's right outside, right around you. So a lot of their classes were outside. They had their math classes outside, and he took me for a little tour and showed me that there's this area where basically they just let all the kids imagination go wild, and they had built all of these tree houses out of anything they could find around, and little if you ask the kids what looked like a pile of brush, they were like, oh, that's where we sit and where we do our quiet reading, and then over here's where we have our castle. And you're like, wow. Whoa. Then it'd be cool if we did more of that with kids and with classes.
I agree. I've been seeing an influx in that too across the different areas of Canada. For example,
Yeah.
I first heard about it when my two youngest were doing this preschool center under one sky. They developed, well, as well, following other people's leads, but they made a program called Take It Outside. So their older little kids that they were getting, they would take it to the Take It Outside program. And like you were saying, Allie, they would go to an area that's wooded. They would have a place that they can go in because they would go all year long, even in the wintertime. So you had to make sure they were dressed appropriately because they would do the snowshoeing. They would collect, like look at nature, look at animals and whatnot. So it's really encouraging to see that they're even starting this at the preschool age because it's there's no bad timing to start that. That's for sure.
No, exactly. And the younger you start, the more invested in it you are as you grow up too. The more you already know, the more it's just more knowledge.
Well, alrighty. As we draw to a close for this episode, any final thoughts or questions on the ancient First Nations portage trails?
Be on hurricane watch before you decide to go.
This is true.
Always check for hurricanes, snowstorms,
What does
excessive heat.
what does the word portage mean? It's a French word, right? Portage.
Well, from my understanding, and I might get this wrong, it was like portage would just be like a rough terrain of environment that you're walking through, was my understanding, but I probably did a very poor job at explaining that.
So what I thought portage is like the act of like carrying something. Okay. I was like, I'm French and I'm not 100% sure because it's not a word we just like use regularly in a like chit chat situation.
Not anymore, eh?
My understanding, and I'm not saying, Allie, you're right. I just said
No, you can say I'm right, Shawn. It's okay.
No.
Okay.
Rather that, you know what I mean. That's the definition I was familiar with. The idea was that you're traveling between two bodies of water, and that you're carrying your canoe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. Which is also, I guess, it's probably worthwhile mentioning that on this portage trail, every 500 meters, there is a rest if you are in fact doing that. If you're not hiking and if you're actually carrying a canoe, there's a rest every 500 meters so that you can set down your canoe and you can get out from underneath it, which, is really kind of considerate for folks that are doing that.
Yeah. That's awesome. But yeah, that's what I've always known it to be, was that, that carrying. Because like we'll still say like for example in French to say porter is just like to carry or to bring, and that we use all the time, like that. Or emporter, which is to bring you, like, or I will bring this with me, or I'll bring this to you, or whatever. So it's interesting that portage is just not. And I can't speak for everybody, but I don't say the word portage very often.
I highly recommend to try out the trails if you guys have an opportunity to. To anyone, all of our listeners, anyone you guys know, I would recommend it. Reach out to Tim Humes, and he will certainly hook you up.
Yes.
And if you need a canoe, also, Tim runs his own business at EO Depot, so he'd probably be able to fix you up that way too if you were so inclined. So there you go. That's it. Shameless plug for our tour guide and friend of the show, Tim.
Well-deserved. A well-deserved plug.
Exactly. All right. Well, of course, as always, if you have any information or any other stories related to this story or others that we've done, or what ones that you would like us to do please reach out into the comment section below or at linkproject@beaubearsisland.ca. If you'd like us to get in touch with you, we would certainly like to hear whatever you may wish to tell. And so we will return once again next week. We've got a lot of exciting episodes planned in the weeks ahead before the end of this year. And so we look forward to seeing you and you seeing us in all of them. So from all of us to all of you, all the best and enjoy your day.